What's up, everyone? Dan here, Crypto Capital Venture, December 17th, 2018. I hope you're doing well. Bitcoin up today. We're going to talk about it. We're going to look at the charts. We're going to look at some mid-term resistance, very influential resistance, and I want to talk about it. That's on the weekly, and then we're going to slowly go to the daily, to the 4-hour, and zoom in on this area to see what kind of breakout we would need in terms of testing this resistance, and we'll also look at some short-term support. Let's jump into the video. Let's get right into it. The resistance that I'm talking about is this very small little channel that you see on my screen right here from around $4,400 to around $4,100. So there are two reasons we have this as a resistance area, as even a potential area to retrace to for resistance and come back down, right? We talk about forming this channel similar to the last bear market, right? It found itself in kind of this bottom range for a while. Whether or not that happens this time around, time will tell, but we take that data, that historical data, and we use it to help try and paint a possible story, potential story for Bitcoin today. So here we go. We're going to talk about this potential bottom range for Bitcoin, and a revisit to a resistance area could be in play, right? So let's talk about it. Why is this a resistance area? We have two things going on. Number one, you might have heard about this on the weekly charts. This 200 EMA, right around $4,100 to $4,200. You see this pink line. We broke that, right? So in the short to mid term, getting out of this bear market, that's going to be a huge area to watch for Bitcoin. I do want to note that Bitcoin currently on the Coinbase weekly is just, I mean, the 200 EMA just came into play, the beginning of October on these charts, but you can see Bitcoin really right above it right now. And on that chart, it's looking like it's got some support there, right? But we have a longer term chart on Bitfinex and others showing us under the 200 EMA on the weekly. So we're going to use that. So that's the first thing. Now, zooming back out here on this chart, the other thing is we take the long-term Fibonacci retracement from that bottom that we had in the last market to the new swing all-time high, right? And we get this very important area, which is that 786. And we talk about the 786 area, the Fibonacci retracement in terms of support and resistance. In this volatile cryptocurrency market, the 786 is just a huge area to look at. So you can see the 786 currently right around $4,300, $4,400, and we broke that. So in my opinion, that was one of the first indicators of a nice bottom range for Bitcoin, right? And it played into my whole anything under $5,000 for Bitcoin is a very good area to accumulate. That $3,500 to $5,500 area is what we talked about. So those are the two reasons why we have this range, right? We have the 200 EMA on the kind of bottom side of that range, and then we have the Fibonacci retracement to the 786. So we need to get back above that as well on the weekly. This might be a slow progression in order to do so, but that's our starting point. So we can pivot over to the daily chart, zoomed out, just to start throwing in some context to this video, which is the other thing going on right now, and I'm going to get my price range, is you remember we've been talking about this 200 EMA overextension in this bear market environment, right? So back in 2015 when we hit our bottom, the overextension from the 200 EMA on the daily was right around 60%. And right now, you can see the overextension on the daily is right around 50%, right? So we've gone right around 50%. And what I want to talk about in this video is the formation of a bottom. So without percentages or without Fibonacci retracement, I want you to take note of this flow movement, right? The Fibonacci and supports and resistances and the EMAs, they all do work in flow. They work together. But just take note of the picture, right? Just the movement of Bitcoin. So in this last bear market, you can see just kind of this gradual just decline into the bottom. And then we finally started trading sideways. And then we eventually, 6 months later or so, got that uptrend, and we got this very important 50 EMA above the 200 EMA cross in the markets. That's essentially what we're aiming for. That's what we want. But take note of the flow of Bitcoin going into that bottom. Now take note of the flow of Bitcoin going into this current bottom. So you can see kind of pretty smooth, right? And then most recently, we had a very, very big dip on the 50 EMA that you see. So to recover from something like that, what we really need is time and consolidation around that 50 EMA. So we need a leveling off in the 50 EMA. So pivoting over now again to the daily, more zoomed in, this is what we're going to be looking for a leveling off. We need this shorter term move for Bitcoin to continue. And in continuing, what we need to do is retrace to the 50 EMA. We at least have to test the 50 EMA, if not break above it for a short term, in order for this 50 EMA to kind of start leveling off and consolidating. So with all of that being said, for some underlying context to this video, what we have now is the actual shorter term technical analysis. And I mentioned this in yesterday's Litecoin video, which is we have this similar move in Bitcoin right now after it's seen some losses, right? After we've gotten this rejection from the 50 EMA, we see some major losses, and we kind of fell into this like falling wedge, which is these lower highs that you see here, and then these lower lows, right? So that's essentially what we fell into, and it's very similar to, a lot of times when we get rejection at the 50 EMA, right? So rejection at the 50 EMA, rejection at 50 EMA, falling into this wedge of these lower highs, these lower lows, and then we do get a breakout. We get a pullback to the 50 EMA, if not the 200 EMA. So we're tracking a similar move right now on Bitcoin, and you can see it pretty clearly on the daily chart. So in order to get this similar type of consolidation, right, the leveling off of the 50 EMA so that it even begins to be magnetized back to the 200 EMA, because right now we're really not even close on Bitcoin. You can see the 200 EMA up here, the 50 EMA down here. We need leveling off, and in order to get that, we need a breakout to the upside to revisit at least the 50 EMA. So we see it zoomed in. There's the pattern. We're looking for consolidation, the leveling out 50 EMA, and we're also looking for this very key Fibonacci retracement, which plays into this story, right? So we can take this swing high right here on Fibonacci, right down there, and you can see the 618 to 786 channel that we always talk about on this channel, right there around 39 to 40, 41, $4,200. So that's, in telling this story of revisiting the 50 EMA, which I believe is still around 20% away or so. I'm not actually, I want to check on that, right? I kind of just threw that out there. Let me check if that's even, no, we're 30% from the 50 EMA. So we have a ways to go. And in getting there, our first area of resistance is this channel, this Fibonacci channel, 14 to 20%. So I just want to throw out there, we have some ways to go. It's nice that the market is up right now. It's nice that Bitcoin's making a little bit of move. Some altcoins making some nice moves, but please keep in mind we're in a bearish environment. So I have to throw out some bearish tones to just kind of throw caution out there, because if this doesn't continue, we're going to see some shorter term rejection, and we'll see some, more downside, if not lower lows. Something to be careful for. However, on this short term, we're in the day, we're in the green. We want to track, we want to anticipate a continuation in this short term little run, right? So we need ultimately more volume to come in to push us through the top of this wedge, to break this previous lower high, right around, I think it's, let's see, we can go to the 4-hour chart to really look at this. It's 36.43. So that's the area, that's our first short-term target, is 36.43, which is the previous lower high right here. And that's our first short-term target. in breaking the upside of this wedge. So currently, if you want to track this on the short term, you can see we are right around another 5 to 6% away from Bitcoin approaching its first key resistance area on this little run that it's in. So want to throw this out there that Bitcoin has some work to do, right? But it's completely possible. It's completely, we can have a good week, and it could be the beginning of something special. So the other thing on the short term that you can look out for is this 50 EMA on the 4-hour chart. Now that we've broken above it, the key now is to see, will we hold above it? So if we do, for some reason in the shorter term, maybe today, tomorrow, revisit the 50 EMA on the 4-hour, let's see if it holds, right? But in taking that 50 EMA, that steep 50 EMA on the daily, and turning that around to kind of flatten it out, the first step for Bitcoin is on the 4-hour, where we start to see the 4-hour with an upward motion, with some upward momentum. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, some resistance areas for Bitcoin. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens today, right? It's still early in the afternoon over here on the East Coast. I'm really curious. I'm going to be tracking these levels, but ultimately Bitcoin definitely still has a lot of work to do. You can see on the 4-hour chart, if we just get an idea of what we've done here in the last 8 hours or so, that's around 7%, and in the last day or so, couple days, around 10%, Bitcoin has made a move. So in order to hit these targets, these really longer term targets, we're talking about Bitcoin would need 30% or so in an uptrend throughout this week. Will that happen? I do not know. I'm not here to tell you if it'll happen, but it's something to anticipate. And this little pattern that you see on the screen is the beginning of that. Right now, testing the upper trend line. So keep an eye out on it if you want to open your 4-hour charts. And these are some levels I'm watching. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think that this nice little run will continue? It's possible, but we've seen it before. We've been here not even, when was this? November 18th. So just about a month ago, we had a move, 22% on the upside. That didn't last very long. So be careful out there. Don't spend more money than you can afford to lose. This entire video is not financial advice. It's just my thoughts. It's my approach to the markets. I hope you're doing well. If you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you as part of the channel. I will see you all in the next video. Have an awesome day, and God bless.